Howdy fellow skeptics, Lester the Skeptic Tank here. Just going to walk through an acquisition I had within the last month. Kind of touching upon the question of what's your end state. In this specific instance, it's going to be around my acquisition of a Super Famicom Classic. I initially was going to have an unboxing video while it's been out of the box. And let's just say right from the get-go, it is very much a lesson of really trying to know what you're getting into before you make that purchase. And the thinking was, and it goes back to the mentality or mindset of do your homework. So, for starters, this, if you can tell, I don't know if this was a homebrew game. Looks like it's an official game, a Macross game. I remember playing an NES version of a similar, if not identical, game. It was simply called Macross, within a collection of 110 games for the Nintendo, which I happened to get from when my dad went on Westpac, went to Hong Kong, and let's just say that part of the world, most of Asia, rife with those types of games. If you know, you know. Real quick, given that was the inspiration, the lack of homework I did made me rethink my strategy, and I'm slowly coming to terms of what my options are or will be. So, because of my lack of research, I was looking for a Super Famicom because I was under the mistaken impression Super Famicom was out of the gate compatible with domestic American games and Japanese games. Wrong. As I've done my research, you're kind of better off with an American Super Nintendo cutting off the tabs, as my friend had done way back in the day, which enabled them to play the Japanese games that, at the time, if you had a Japanese collection of games or a collection of Japanese games, you kind of had bragging rights. Fast forward 2016 or 17, they had ruled out what are the NES, SNES, and in this case, Super Famicom Classic. And again, my lack of homework I did maybe be of the wrong impression. As you can tell, this looks nothing like a traditional Super Famicom by sheer dimension alone. It's a nice little museum piece. The unit itself, let's get into that. Nice little touching upon member berries. The traditional SNES controller port. Of course, this is just a look. Well, these are actionable buttons and switches. has an HDMI port and a micro USB port as a means of powering the device. And behind this charade proprietary controller ports, a little disappointed. If they were USB ports, that would have been a killer deal. Like, it would have been nice to double the functionality of the provided controllers, which comes with two, so I'll give it that. It would have doubled up nicely as a PC controller if I wanted that member berry, if I were to resort to that way of playing classic games on my PC. I tested it maybe a night and a half, not very long. 10 to 15 playable games, maybe more than that. And I appreciate that being available. And it's a way for me to brush up on my Japanese and also maybe improve my Japanese literacy, because I'm not going to be so dependent on strictly hiragana or katakana scripting. And so it would force me to learn the kanji part of the Japanese script, which the nice thing about Japanese is that having worked with hiragana, even for the quarter I took Japanese, it is very consistent and predictable. That's the one thing I'll give Japanese as a language. The nice thing about it is I can power this on by hooking into an available USB port on my computer, so I don't have to take up an AC outlet. So because of this, I'm not in a major dilemma, but it's a dilemma. Because of the question, what's my end state, especially when I want to play retro games? Do I look for the best deal on an SNES and get one of those adapters without having to get inside the nitty gritty of the machine? Because I believe I shopped around for adapters as well, enabling you to play the Super Famicom cartridges in your SNES without having to do any physical labor. And I think the price is reasonable. Or do I pull the trigger on one of those, I don't know if you call, I'll say it, third-party consoles, especially since the copyright ran out on the Genesis and Genesis and the SNES, respectively. Do I roll the dice on a machine like that, where, like a Retron 5, for example, I would have the opportunity to play not just NES or SNES, but also NES and Genesis, both domestic and import games? And maybe with a better video support with the HDMI cable and so forth. I did roll the dice on another machine. I think it was a Retron 2 or something that was SNES and Genesis. I could be wrong. But it was a machine where I found one of the controller ports was broke. And I think I ended up damaging the HDMI port. I just know that as I played games here on my 4K LED monitor, and what I saw at the arcade just up the street from me, using LCD, LED screen, whatever non-CRT technology, you run into massive pixelation, which just doesn't work for me. And so when I go to an arcade and I find a classic CRT style arcade, talk about pulling the right strings, because the graphics just look right. So the other thing too is, if I want to opt for standard video output and not the HDMI, I will have to look into investing in a CRT screen, with the chances of it possibly going dead on me, because even though these CRT screens were made well, it's just the fact of time. I could just turn it on and I'd hear that gun go, and it's done. Or, run the risk of just increasing my overall real estate. So that's just the dilemma I face. All I know is, no, I can't do the retro gaming on a tablet or a mobile phone. And clearly, there are better things I would spend my money on than investing in arcade cabinets. As much as I would like that, I get enough entertainment from, having a classic console. Like, that's why I go to the Retro Gaming Expo, because people have been super generous with providing the equipment to play these retro games and play them rather faithfully. So, I don't know what you guys think. I may be full of it with my assessment, but that's what the comment sections are for. So, feel free, drop a comment, let me know what you think of, if you're a retro gamer, does your display technology matter? Or do you think the adapted or sampled graphics by using HDMI upsampling or upscaling, that it's passable, or in your mind it might be better? So feel free, looking forward to it, and until the next video, fellow skeptics, peace out, and I'll catch you all on the other side.